Hi all, Heather Levitt Martinez here, and I'm here to show you how to fill the BigOne art marker. Now, if you're signed up for Big Fun with Mike Gold, or if you can't make it to the live session, that's okay because the session's going to be recorded and we're going to continue sending out kits after the session. So you're wondering, what is all of this? Well, we are going to celebrate the power of two by working with the world's largest brush nib marker and the world's smallest by Neuland. And so let me show you what comes in the kit. Well, at least some of the stuff. The essentials are you get a colored, already ready, filled and ready to go BigOne art marker from Neuland. You get the FineOne Flex. This is the smallest nib. And we're going to play with those two. And you get an empty to fill it with whatever you like. And the special tool, it's an injector bulb. Now, very important, if you are new to Neuland, you will not want to fill this with any type of permanent ink that has shellac, no acrylics, nothing that's going to clog up this nib. Now, here's how you open it properly. You hold it with your fist like this, put your thumb on the end of the cap, and pop it open. And here we have an empty marker. Now I'm going to fill this. I'm going to show you how to fill it. And then I'm going to show you what I've been doing, some of the calligraphy inks that I've been using and testing and how I'm putting those together. Also in the kit, before I forget, you're also going to get where to go, small envelope that has a postcard in it of some drawings that I did of the BigOne. You're going to get two different kinds of paper, a marker layout paper and a Bristol paper, which is going to work really great with the markers that I send you. You might want to have some Arches text wove or any kind of watercolor paper, probably a hot press finish. If you're going to fill your BigOne with some type of watercolor, walnut ink, that kind of thing, just because it's a good combination. You're also going to get in this packet a couple of postage stamps. You'll get directions during the class, some stickers, always more stickers because Neuland markers are amazing. And you're going to get this little guy, a little gremlin. And I will send you a link to a video once you enroll that gives you access on how to work with your gremlin. So this all comes in a kit along with a couple of other goodies. So you're going to want to make sure that you sign up for that. And on the sign up page, just indicate where you live because the shipping is different depending on where you live. So let's talk about how to fill the BigOne art marker. Now, I am going to show you how I fill it with the refill ink from Neuland, and then I'm going to show you what I've done to mine to really customize it using Bister inks. So when you get your, if you were to buy some ink from Neuland, this is a gray 106, my absolute favorite color to demonstrate with and for shadows because it's right in the middle of all the grays. You invert the ink bottle, you squeeze, and that injector bulb fills full of ink. Then you turn it right side up and you twist it using this collar, right? You don't want to twist it from up here, and you don't want to, once you get this twisted up, you don't want to hold it from the bulb because some can come out. And this is very, very sharp, so be careful. This injector needle is going to go right into the back end of the art marker. I'm going to show you this way. And then you're going to slowly squeeze just a few drops at a time. You can see that going in there. You don't want to go too fast, otherwise the ink will run up and over and through. Now, if you're filling see that went on the side a little bit. If you're filling a marker that you purchased that has a gray casing like this, then my general rule is, and I know Neuland says, wait till it runs completely out because you don't want to overfill your marker. But the thing is, when it comes to these brush nibs, you want to keep them juicy because they are very flexible and you want to make sure that you keep the ink running in them. And so we're going to squeeze some in here. Now, the first time you fill it up, it's going to take several bulb full. And people say, well, how many? Well, it kind of depends on how big your finger is, right? So are you filling the entire bulb with ink? Is it only going halfway? This, of course, is coated, but I've got pretty small fingers, so I would say that mine is about halfway. So as you can see, you want to let it fully saturate the inside here. And Neuland does sell a couple of little holders that you can put your markers in as you refill them, but you can also just lay it in the lid. Just don't close it. You want to make sure that you are filling this with the lid off. Very important, because if not, it won't flow all the way down and it causes a vacuum effect. So I'm going to let that soak in just a little bit. And I'm going to go with 2.5 to 3 injector bulb full. And what I'm noticing here is that this inside part is completely full of ink. And pretty soon it's going to be going down into the nib. And once it starts going down into the nib, I'm going to stop putting ink in it, because that'll take some time to fill. And we want that to be completely saturated. So even if you notice that the nib is covered in ink, see how it's starting to come down? You want to make sure that it's completely full of ink, because if it just comes around the sides and not in the middle, and you put pressure on it, you will be inadvertently damaging the nib. So now you can see that the ink is going down into the nib. Good. That means the ink is flowing through here, going all the way down. And we'll give that just a couple of minutes to fill. And let me tell you a little bit about Big Fun with Mike Gold. So last year, Neuland came out with this, the largest art marker in the world that's made out of this type of nib. It's one that we've been asking for years. And when Neuland came out with it, I put this along with the FineOne in the hands of many, many calligraphers, and they did beautiful work. And this year I thought, well, let's have fun on Ampersand Day and do the power of 2, big and small. And this is a wonderful technique that Mike Gold teaches to calligraphers. But now that we have these 2 fabulous tools, let's see how we can play with them together. And the reason why I'm sending you the empty one is because if you don't like the color that I send you, then you can fill this with whatever you like. Plus, you can experiment. I mean, I love putting walnut ink in these, and I'm going to show you how I use Bister ink. Now, I can see that this is that's all the way to the tip. You see how the very tip is just a little white? So just for fun, I'm going to put just a few drops on the tip of this nib to ensure that it saturates all the way through to the core. Now, this isn't a recommendation of Neuland. That's just something that I do. And I'm going to set this aside for a couple of minutes. When you store these, you want to store them face down so that when you take off the cap, they're ready to go. So I'm going to set that aside for just a moment. And I'm going to show you what I've been doing with Bister inks and to fill the empty one using my own ink. And so let me show you how I am doing that. Okay, here we go. Let's flip it around. There we go. All right. So if you're not familiar with Bister inks, these are out of the UK. They come in a powder form. And so I mix it up using 1 small spoonful. This is the tool that you get when you purchase the inks from John Nail Books. If you purchase the inks from them, oops, this is walnut ink. Comes in, you can buy it as a kit or separate, and these come in powders. And so I take a scoop of this, and my recipe here is 1 spoonful to 5 dropper full of water. So what do I mean by a dropper full? Well, when I pull water up into here, and I'll use this dirty water so you can see, it actually only does about 1/2 of a dropper full. So I counted out 5 of those and put it in each one of these. These are the 4 colors that I'm testing. And then I have another little palette here that I put 10 drops of each in here, just so that I have something to work with. And the very first test that I did along here, I used a brush. So let me make some room here. And I use the brush here. And then I took a BigOne art marker, just like I showed you before, and I filled this, and this looks dark, but this is actually the yellow. I filled this with yellow. And what I did is I then dipped it in the yellow, went this way, oops, down here, went this way. You'll notice it's a little bit lighter, a little bit less saturation, just because it's a different tool. And then I just did a spot into the water and then added another line. So let me show you how I would do that. I'm going to clean this up just a bit. It's not going to turn pure white, but it's going to get close. And so I'll do it with the black so you can see what I've done here. So I've just dipped just the tip of the nib in black and drew a couple of lines. You'll notice, oops, that's not black, that's blue. I love it when I mess up and break things. Shows that I'm human. All right, so I'm going to put just a little bit of white in there just to pull that blue. Okay, here's my black. Yellow, mahogany, blue, and black. Should have made a map. Okay, we'll go right over the top of this so that you can see it. Put a little bit more. And then I made these lines. So now very similar in color, a little bit lighter, just the touch of the tip of the nib in. So you can see what happens when I add just a little bit of water. Now that water is the key to adding some ways of being able to mix these. And so that's what's so beautiful about Bister inks is they mix beautifully. Now, what's going to happen is when you go to mix your Bister inks on the tip of your nib, it is going to get contaminated. So I'm going to keep going back and wiping this off, trying to take out the darkest colors. And then, of course, I've got my yellow here. So I'm going to resaturate that with yellow because that yellow is going to be that carrier for all of these other colors. Now, what I'm going to do next is grab a clean sheet of paper, and I'm working on Arches Text Wove because it takes Bister so beautifully. And just add a little bit of water here. For those of you who are wondering, what paper towel is that? I love the Viva paper towel. It's a great paper towel to use in calligraphy and inks because it's sort of like a regular towel, but it's disposable, but I tend to use it over and over. Okay, so I'm going to start with my lightest color first. I'm going to put a lot of water in the nib so that it carries well. I'm going to dip it into the yellow, and I'll just write the word big. It looks kind of brown, but you'll notice where it gets lighter, it's kind of yellow. Let's take some of that out. I'll go back over with some red. Again, very dark color in terms of the red tends to be also a little yellow. Let's see if I can get some of that ink out of there. There we go. Now we're starting to see it come up. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but it's showing up a little red here. Okay. And then, because the blue is a cooler color, I'm going to try to get as much of that red out of there as possible. Notice I'm not pushing straight down on my nib. I'm going to the side, and that's pretty clean. And so I'm going to add a whole bunch more water so that it can kind of act as a, notice as I put the water in there, then the nib gets a little bit cleaner. And then I'm going to get just a touch of blue in there. Again, add some water because I want it to be really light. And I'm going to lightly draw in with the tip of my nib a shadow. There we go. So now you can see where we can play with those colors. I love the blue and the black. So let's go a little bit on there and let's write fun. And because the black is really made up of a lot of the other Bister inks and its own pigment, just going to pull a little bit there and then make a shadow using that. It'll have just a little bit of the blue in it. That's okay. Now is where you can really play with the tip of the nib. I could also go in with my FineOne Flex, because it's a tiny little nib, and do that as well. So you can see you can get nice gradients with this. And if you're thinking, well, I don't have Bister inks, this also works great with watercolor. The key is getting the ink completely dissolved and using a lot of water like I've done here. And I'm going to put this in the dirtier water just to really get a lot of this out. Keep this water as clean as I can. There you go. All right. And so even though this is a little mucked up, if you're like, I don't know if I want my BigOne to look like a rainbow like this, you can also fill this with any type of ink that'll go through a fountain pen, because fountain pens can easily get clogged. So if it can go through a fountain pen using fountain pen ink, it will work in this marker. And of course, you can purchase inks from Neuland if you like. And if you are one of my students, then you have a 15% discount on Neuland products. Just find that in the coursework or email me and I'll send you the voucher code. And I look forward to seeing you at Big Fun with the BigOne. Oh, and the FineOne Flex as well. All right, we'll see you on Ampersand Day.